Hi, you guys. So one of the things you need to be able to do as seventh graders is you need to be able to write an equation for a real world problem and then to solve that. So this example has already been done for you, but I want to go through it with you just so that you understand where the equation came from. So the very first thing you always want to do whenever you have a word problem is you want to read through it very carefully so that you understand what's going on in the situation. And reading a word problem in math is just like reading a story in English. You want to picture in your mind what's happening, okay? So Miss Stone is planning Oak Middle School's talent show. She wants each of the 10 students to have an equal amount of time on stage. The show will be 90 minutes long, including a 20-minute intermission. How much time will each student have on stage? So once you understand what the question's about, the next thing that you need to do is you need to figure out what question you are answering. So in this case, we want to know how much time will each student have on stage, and then that becomes our variable. That's the thing that we don't know. That's the thing that we need to figure out. Okay, so time on stage for each student. Okay, now we go back to the problem and we figure out some things that we know that'll help us with figuring out the answer to this question. So there are 10 students in total. She wants each of them to have an equal amount of time on stage, and the show's going to be 90 minutes. That includes a 20-minute intermission. So the way that this equation was written, you can see the 90. That's the total amount of time that the show is. The 20, that is the 20-minute intermission. And during that time, there are no students on stage. So you can see that that time right there does not include the variable t. And then the 10 students are each going to have equal amounts of time on stage. So that's where the 10t comes from. Then once you have the equation written, you just solve the equation by isolating the variable. So we would isolate this first by minusing 20 from both sides. So 10 times t equals 70. Then we divide by 10 and we get 7. So if there's 90 minutes in total, each student can have 7 minutes each, and then we have the 20-minute intermission, and then that does equal 90. Okay, let's go ahead and do another one. It says, Alvin's family is going on a trip to Alaska, and all 5 family members needed to buy winter hats. They used a coupon for $15 off their entire purchase, and the total came to $89 before tax. If each hat cost the same price, what was the price of each hat? So the question we are answering is right here. If each hat costs the same price, what is the price of each hat? And the nice thing about word problems is they're really all set up in the same way with the question that you're being asked as the very last sentence of the word problem. So that means we know that P is going to stand for the price of each hat. Okay, so let's go back to our question and figure out the information that we know to be able to solve this problem. Okay, well, we know there are 5 family members. They're all going to buy a hat. We don't know the price of the hats, but we know all 5 family members are going to buy a hat. So that means we're going to have 5 hats times by P. Okay, 5 family members each get a hat. We also know that they used a coupon for $15 off their entire purchase. So whatever the cost of 5 times the price of each hat is, we need to subtract $15 from that, and then the total is going to be $89. Okay, and now we just go ahead and solve this equation. To solve for the P, we would first add 15 to both sides. So that means 5 times P equals, what's that, 104? And then if we take the 104 and we divide by 5, we get P equals 20.8, which because we're talking about a price of each hat, we need to make that into $20.80. Okay, let's try another one. Jada's class collected 60 non-perishable food items for a local pantry. Jada and her friend each donated N items. The rest of their class donated 46 items. How many items did Jada and her friend each donate? So that is the question we're being asked. How many items did Jada and her friend each donate? So that means that we're going to use N as the number of items that Jada and her friend donated. We know that her class collected 60 in total. Jada and her friend donated N number of items, and the rest of the class donated 46. So if they collected 60 in total, and Jada and her friend donated a certain number of items we don't know, and the rest of the class donated 46, we can use this equation to help us solve for the number of items that Jada and her friend donated. So we would minus 46 from both sides, and we get N is equal to 14. Okay, 14 is the number of items Jada and her friend donated. So let's just try a couple more, and then I think you guys are going to be ready to try some. The Platt family ordered 4 large pizzas, each with a different topping, and spent $55.60. The price of a large pizza without any toppings is $10.95. If all of the toppings cost the same amount, what is the price of each topping? Okay, so if all of the toppings cost the same amount, C, what is the price of each topping? C is the cost of each topping. Okay, so let's go back to our problem to figure out what information we've been given. So we know they ordered 4 large pizzas, each with a different topping. They spent $55.60. The price of a large pizza without toppings is $10.95. If toppings cost the same, what is the price of each topping? Okay, so for each pizza, it's $10.95 plus the cost of one topping. And they bought 4 pizzas. Okay, so the C is the cost of each topping. We know that each of the pizzas had 1 topping, and then that total is $55.60. So to solve for the cost of each topping, we're going to start with inside our parentheses, and that $10.95, we can't combine that with the C because those are not like terms. Okay, this one has a C. This is 1 C, and then the other one is $10.95. So now we're going to distribute 4 times $10.95 is $43.80. So $43.80 plus 4 times C. Remember, when you distribute, you've got to distribute to both. Okay, and then we're going to solve for the C. So we're going to minus $43.80 from both sides. Sorry, I just realized my face is off the screen. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to have 4 times C equals, we'll do the $55.60 minus $43.80. So, and we get $11.80. And then our last step is to divide by 4. So C equals $11.80 divided by 4, which is $2.95. Okay, so let's just go ahead and check if that's correct. So if I take $10.95 and then I add $2.95, $2.95 plus $10.95, that means each pizza was $13.90, pizza plus topping. And then if I times that by 4, because there were 4 pizzas bought, I do get the $55.60. Okay, now at this point, what I want you to do is you're going to take this paper that you just followed along with, and you're going to turn it to the back side, and I want you to work on the page that says 97, and for each of these you are going to write an equation, and then you're going to solve it, and then you'll bring back those 4 questions for me to check off with you, and then you'll move on to the next thing on the list. Okay.